from the Built Ford Tough studio at FedEx Forum, it's the Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South, on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app. Now, here's your host, Gary Parrish.
All right, I'm here. My name is Gary Parrish. I'm speaking to you from Midtown Manhattan, New York City. Bennett Doyle back in Memphis producing the program. Glad he's with me. Glad you're with me. Hope you're getting through the day best you can. And I hope you enjoyed NBA All-Star Weekend, or survived it or ignored it. Either way, it's over. So we'll talk about it momentarily. First, though, quickly, let me set today's schedule for you in the next segment. Around 10:20, DeMichael Cole's going to join me. He, of course, covers the Grizzlies for The Commercial Appeal. He was out in San Francisco all weekend for All-Star festivities. He's going to join me to discuss it. DeMichael Cole's going to be here in about 20 minutes. When I finish talking to DeMichael, go take a break. Come back. Do 5 more things you need to know, at which point we're going to discuss 5 previously undiscussed stories, among them Penny Hardaway's Tigers. Oh, boy. Took another quad 3 loss this weekend at Wichita State. That's 3 on the season. That's bad relative to other ranked teams, and I'll tell you how bad. We'll do it in about 40 minutes. The Tigers' old AAC pals, on the other hand, they're doing okay. Houston won again this weekend at Arizona. Kelvin Sampson is on some kind of run, on the verge of winning a second straight Big 12 title. I'll give you some interesting numbers connected to that program. Our old friend Houston, we'll do that in just a bit. The first ever number 1 versus number 2 matchup in SEC basketball history. It was played this weekend in Tuscaloosa. Auburn won it, which allowed Bruce Pearl to make history. I'll tell you how a little later on in the show. Aaron Rodgers reportedly pleaded with the Jets to keep him before they decided to move on from the quarterback last week. That's hilarious. Give you the details on that in the second hour. An SNL50 celebration. It went down this weekend here in New York City. Paul McCartney closed things out last night. That's an 82-year-old Beatle. We'll spend some time on that during a segment we call 5 More Things You Need to Know. Then we'll eventually do GP's carry out, and we'll call it a day. So that's the rundown. We got a lot to get to. But I did want to start with NBA All-Star Weekend because after 3 busy days in San Francisco, the 2025 NBA All-Star Weekend is in the books. Like Colin Ward Henniger wrote over at CBSSports.com, depending on whom you ask, it was either the All-Star Game, a step in the right direction for one of the NBA's biggest properties, or it was the worst thing that has ever been on television. Either way, it wasn't great. Nobody's arguing whether it was great. So if you picked SNL50 over the NBA All-Star Game, you likely aren't sitting here on a Monday regretting it. Neither LeBron James nor Anthony Edwards played, which is apparently controversial for some. LeBron had an ankle/foot injury and announced pregame that he was out. Anthony Edwards had a soft tissue issue and never checked into the game. Big Bet Bennett, there's an argument out there that LeBron and Ant, if they knew they were unlikely to play, they should have said so earlier so other players could have replaced them and become NBA All-Stars. Is that a fair criticism, or who cares?
I think it's a fair criticism, just because this stuff, I look bright today. We had some lighting issues before the show. I look pale.
You look good. You look good to
I'm
me.
not sick. That threw me off. Yeah, I mean, because this affects guys as far as potential money down the line and things like that. Like having All-Star attached to your name matters. So sure, I think if those guys knew they weren't going to play, yeah, maybe they should have spoken up and let somebody else take the spot. I mean, I think that's fair.
I would like to think that if I were hurt and I knew I was unlikely to play, that I would remove myself in time to maybe make another player's dream come true. Because that is what you can do. Like if LeBron would have said last week, hey, I'm 40. Let's just start there. I'm 40. I could use a week off. Plus my knee's hurting and my foot's hurting. I'm just not going to play. If he says that, then maybe he's replaced by I don't know, Norman Powell. And then Norman Powell is a first-time NBA All-Star, and then that's on his Wikipedia page, and then that follows him around forever. Like, the reason I can tell you this does matter in that respect is because I work with people who were former NBA All-Stars, and they are introduced that way.
Yeah, that's right.
Every single time. Like Wally Zerbiak, my friend and colleague at CBS Sports, is a one-time NBA All-Star. And that is the way he's introduced every time he's introduced.
Former NBA All-Star. That's right.
That's right. Nobody emphasizes the word one, but they say, and right here is former NBA All-Star Wally Zerbiak. If Brent Stover's in studio, it'll be, I'm Brent Stover. This is former Texas Tech coach Chris Walker. That's Gary Parrish, our CBS Sports college basketball insider. And down on the end, former NBA All-Star Wally Zerbiak. When LeBron and Ant don't remove themselves from competition in time to allow somebody else to replace them, you have taken that dream away from somebody. I'm not trying to protest about it. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, it does matter, and I think that's a fair criticism from LeBron and Ant. If you knew you weren't going to play, maybe let us know in time so we can get some of the people here. As for the actual All-Star game, I gather, because I didn't put my eyes on it even once. I explained this to Jess this morning. First off, I'm in New York with my wife. We went to a show yesterday afternoon, went to dinner last night, around those things. You know, we only got one TV. At home, we got a bunch of different screens. But here in a hotel room, we got one big TV. And we could put it on SNL50 or the NBA All-Star Game, and it wasn't even really a decision. Wasn't even something we talked about. Yeah. We went straight to NBC for SNL50. As I explained to Jessica this weekend, the players of this generation have made it clear over and over again that they do not care about the All-Star game. So I am not going to be the sucker who sits there and cares for them or cares instead of them or cares. You're just not going to convince me or get me to care about something you don't care about, or at the very least invest my time in watching it. You don't care enough to compete. I don't care enough to watch you not compete. Imagine asking somebody, the world in this case, hey guys, turn on the TV tonight and watch me play basketball. Are you going to try? Oh, no, not really. Oh, then what? What? No, I'll just watch Paul McCartney and Adam Sandler and Will Ferrell and Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy. There's something else for me to do. Whenever they decide to start really competing and make it interesting, when they decide to care, I'll be right there back with them. I'll care with them. But until I wake up on a Monday morning and I go to CBSSports.com, ESPN.com, everywhere else, and everything I read says, wow, that was amazing, I'm out on the All-Star game. You guys can watch it if you want to. I'll do something else. I'll find all the highlights on Twitter. I'll read everything that's written about it so I can talk about it in this way. But I'm not investing my time in something the players themselves don't even care about. I gather, though, that it was a little more competitive than usual, but still not great or even interesting. Bennett, best you can tell, is that an accurate assessment?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, it looked like the All-Star games looked. I know that they had the different format with the groups playing against each other, but I still felt like the game looked like it's looked, over the past couple seasons for the most part. I give Jaren some credit. He did pick up SGA full court, which was kind of cool, even though SGA got the winning bucket, but he was the only one out there defending. So I do respect that. There was, like, to your point about, I had multiple stuff on. Like, I was watching SNL50 All-Star Game at the same time. You also, because of, you had Daytona on Fox because of the big rain delay. You had the NHL All-Star Game, which was awesome because they're doing the two countries versus each other, which is cool. So you had a bunch of stuff on at the same time. I'll be interesting to see, like, how the ratings play out. And it just interested to see, like, it's interesting to see what matters, right? Because, again, I agree with you. Like, the product is not great as far as just, like, the All-Star game itself. But I will say, dude, like, being on social media, of all the stuff that I just listed that was on, that everybody was watching, there was obviously a lot of SNL50 stuff, but, like, I feel like everyone was talking about the All-Star game. Even if they thought it sucked, I feel like everybody was talking about it last night, right? Like, that's all I was seeing.
Maybe. I don't know. I was just I was clocked out. I don't care. I think the format is a problem. I don't know if there's a perfect solution to it, but after you mentioned, the hockey stuff, after you spent Saturday night, if you spent Saturday night at all, watching USA versus Canada, country versus country, and like the puck drops and we have 3 fights immediately, they're booing the United States national anthem.
No, that was
in
great
Canada.
stuff. That was
Like,
fun.
Once you do that on a Saturday night, less than 24 hours later, isn't it kind of difficult to care about Team Chuck and Team Kenny?
Yeah. I mean, I think the gimmicky stuff. I'm with you, and I don't think the gimmicky stuff is fixing this. I don't. I think that it's just comes down to what you've been saying for, like, as long as if you turn it on and the players care and they're picking each other up and defending, I do think that people will get invested into the game specifically a little bit more. I don't know if any kind of gimmick or different, tournament, things like that, I don't know if that's going to change people's opinion going forward.
I just think the contrast between U.S. versus Canada on a Saturday night in prime time and there's actual fistfights, right? Hey, do these people care? Did you watch any of the hockey stuff? I mean, the puck dropped and it was a fight.
That was in, buddy.
That was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So contrast these two things. On Saturday night, you got hockey players quite literally fist fighting for their country. All right. And on Sunday night, you get Team Chuck against Team Canada, Team Chuck against Team Kenny. Let's play to 40. I mean, it's just, you're not going to get anybody to care about. Who do you even want to win? I could ask you on Saturday night, who are you for, USA or Canada? You got to answer to that question, probably determined by where you live, right? Hey, who are you rooting for, Team Chuck or Team Kenny? What? Nobody even cares. So now, and not just now, this has been happening for years, but people are suggesting now again, should it be USA versus world? Would that fix anything in the NBA? All-Star game, it's American players against non-American players. Does that do it for you?
If it looks like a competitive basketball game, yeah.
There you go. It works in golf. You can't just throw flags on people and tell them to care. You have to throw flags on people and then they automatically care. For whatever reason, it works in golf. The Ryder Cup is intense. Those guys are not there to make money. Perhaps they should, but they're not there to make money. It's just like, I'm an American and these are Europeans and we're trying to kill the Europeans and the Europeans are trying to kill us. It works in golf. It clearly works in hockey. There were 3 fights to start the thing Saturday night. Would it also work in basketball? I don't know. But the key would be the players have to take some pride in what they're doing. You have to take some pride in what it is you're there to do. And to date, this generation of players have showed no interest in doing it. And they don't really show any interest going forward in doing it. You saw Nikola Jokic. He's your MVP, about to be 4-time MVP. On some level, I know he's not the face of the league, but, like, he's the best player in the world. And you know what he said? I don't think that, this is just the way it's going to be until we don't do it anymore. When the best player in the world is saying there ain't no fix to this, that tells you that the players don't care. So this is the way it's probably always going to be. And they'll regret it someday. As a league, they'll regret it someday. But as it is, this is just the way it's going to be.
I thought there was an interesting moment during it was one of the pre-games when Draymond, and you've probably seen the clip of Draymond and Chuck arguing about it, because Draymond says, why are we doing all this stuff, all these gimmicks? Let's go back to East versus West, blah, 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 and talking about how the All-Star game's not the same anymore. And Chuck's like, dude, your generation ruined the All-Star game. Like, they're doing all this weird stuff now to try to fix what you guys messed up.
No, it'd be awesome if we could just select X amount of players from the East, X amount of players from the West, put you in uniforms that say East and West, and then you guys go out and play and compete and try to beat each other. Then you ready? Then there's no more gimmicks. The only reason we have gimmicks, and Draymond, for somebody who talks so much, man, he never, or at least rarely, says anything smart. He says a lot of loud stuff, man, but I never see him make great points. Why are there gimmicks? Because your generation of players won't play. So Adam Silver is left to do anything he can do to try to get you to compete. Let's do an Elam ending. Maybe that'll work. That was a gimmick. You know why? Because you wouldn't do the other way.
Yeah.
Let's
put rookies in the game. Let's put rookies in the game. Try to make it more competitive. They'll care. Yeah.
Like Draymond, Bro, Draymond sitting there frustrated with the gimmicks. The only reason there are gimmicks is because you and every other player your age who was ever good enough to compete in this game has taken it and run it straight into the ground. You are given a massive stage on TNT to try to grow the sport, and you've made it clear that you don't care. You're too tired to compete, or you just don't want to. That's why the gimmicks are here, because of you. You did this. Charles is right. Exactly right. There was a time, I mentioned Wally Zerbiak earlier. I'd love to get him in a 20-minute conversation about his All-Star game experience. They were playing. He was in a game with Kobe. I believe it was in Philadelphia. It was in Kobe's hometown. You know what he says Kobe said? Y'all can do whatever you want to. I'm playing. Y'all can, if y'all don't want to play, I'll score 100 points in this mother, but I'm playing. All right? And the intensity picked up. Mm-hmm. Once upon a time, people did take some level of pride in this. Once upon a time. But that time is way gone. So if it felt too gimmicky for you, understand that the only reason it's too gimmicky these days is because just asking people to do their job has not worked. It's a real problem for the NBA. In the regular season, you got players who don't care about the games. In the All-Star game, you got players who don't care about the games. In no other sport does this exist. In the NBA is the only sport where the players and coaches will tell you stuff you're watching doesn't matter. You will never hear an NFL coach say, we're not even trying to win our division. No coach has ever said that. In the NBA, coaches will say that. Oh, yeah, we're not trying to be the 1 seed. We're just trying to be healthy and be fresh. It's just a weird thing that they cannot figure out. Yesterday was the latest example of it. DeMichael Cole was there. He covers the Grizzlies for the Commercial Appeal. I'll pick his brain about it next.
Grizzlies fans know it's the team that gives you the edge. Big River Steel does too. And much like the Grizzlies have recruited legendary talent, we want you to be part of our team. Are you ready to be part of something legendary? Then visit www.bigriversteel.com. That's www.bigriversteel.com.
Can't wait. It's time to get it popping.
It's going to be crazy. The fans are going to be loud. We need just energy.
Yes. Back to Jaren for the flush.
We're going to need, the Forum rocking. We're going to need, everybody in Memphis to be out there to come to support. When the fans are good, we're good. Simple as that.
A Bane three. Yes, sir. Desmond Bane with ice water in his veins.
We'll ride the energy together.
If you go to a hustle game, you're going to see a very fast-paced game. A lot of action, both offensively, defensively.
Nice rejection right there.
In a great environment at the Lander Center. You could bring family there, kids are running around.
Down the lane and one for Zion Poland.
And then you're going to see a lot of talented basketball players competing at a high level.
At the National Civil Rights Museum, history moves us forward. The question remains, how does history move you?
Keep on talking, marching up to freedom now. A night of comedy with Sebastian Maniscalco and Jim Gaffigan.
Now, is this a family? Is this your mother? Where is she? Is she in the crowd? You don't know where your mom is. The mom's up there. What kind of family is this? I'm sorry.
Sebastian Maniscalco and Jim Gaffigan.
I went ziplining for the last time. What is wrong with us? Would you pay $200 to feel like you're about to die 6 times?
Live in Memphis, FedEx Forum, Friday, February 21st. Get tickets now at livenation.com.
It's your turn to drive into luxury at Southland Casino Hotel. Join us on Saturdays to win your share of up to $1 million in free play and prizes. And don't miss the chance to take home luxury itself during the grand finale drawings. Drive off in a 2025 Land Rover on February 1st or a 2025 Range Rover on March 1st. 2 vehicles, 2 finales, 1 million ways to enjoy luxury only at Southland Casino Hotel. Must be 21 or up. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 800-522-4700.
Thanks for showing up, Memphis. Nothing compares to catching your Grizzlies IRL. And that all starts with buying tickets at Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Memphis Grizzlies and the NBA. Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can catch every highlight. Put that jersey collection to use for the next game and get Grizzlies tickets at Ticketmaster. Whether they're here at FedEx Forum or on the road, Ticketmaster's got your back when it comes to scoring tickets. And there's no better brag than saying you saw it live.
They say main event Jey Uso is going to open the show. So they said they're starting to hear rumbles around the plaza level of Jey Uso. They're getting the crowd together to build up the main event Jey Uso entrance. Hey, 15,000 people together yeeting in unison, 5-star. They are yeeting together.
Tune in to Grind City Wrestling weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back, Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South. I'm in New York City. Bennett Doyle back in the Bill Ford Tough Studio, FedEx Forum. We're standing by for DeMichael Cole. He's been out in San Francisco NBA All-Star Weekend. He covers the Grizzlies for the Commercial Appeal. We never got to the dunk contest, Bennett, but I imagine that was sort of the highlight of the weekend. Matt McClung, he three-peated as a dunk contest champion, first person to ever do that. Does it matter to you that he's not, I know he's technically an NBA player, but he's not really an NBA player. Does it matter to you that the dunk contest, something we grew up watching with Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins, that the dunk contest is now dominated by somebody who, A, isn't like really an NBA player. He's appeared in like 5 games ever. He has 26 field goal attempts in his entire NBA career. He looks like he could be one of my sons. Does it bother you that that's our dunk champion as opposed to one of the actual stars of the NBA, a Ja Morant or Anthony Edwards or somebody like that?
Well, no, because none of them want to do it. Now, the cool thing about it was he was so awesome that I did see Ja say that, you know, he might have to do the dunk contest next year because of Mac McClung. And I saw other, like Giannis quoted Ja, and you saw other guys talking about it. So, dude, if it takes Mac McClung to bring back the dunk contest, hell yeah, brother, I'm in. Let's go.
You could just see Ja and Giannis and Zach LaVine, all of them sitting there like, all right, enough's enough. All right, enough's enough. All right, this is cute, but we cannot let a 26-year-old non-NBA player continue to dominate the Saturday night of All-Star Weekend.
Because he is the GOAT now. He's the dunk contest GOAT. Yeah, you crown him.
It's outrageous. I don't know if Ja will actually do it next year, but if Mac McClung is the reason we someday get Ja Morant in a dunk competition, then God bless Matt McClung. DeMichael Cole is joining us now. He covers the Grizzlies for the Commercial Appeal. He's been out in San Francisco for All-Star Weekend. DeMichael, it's GP. How you doing, buddy?
GP, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, but I'm on the East Coast, and I think you're still out west, so I know it's early for you. I saw what time you posted your overnight at commercialappeal.com, so I appreciate you getting up. How was the weekend? Did you enjoy yourself?
It was solid. You know, I think I've had probably a better All-Star weekend before, but I think overall the Grizzlies had a lot of representation at this one. You know, I enjoyed myself. Like San Fran was cool. We went to Oakland for, you know, a few of the events. So you were kind of, you know, going from one side of the bridge to the other side of the bridge for some things. I thought it was a solid weekend overall. Of course, you know, as you were just talking about, there's a lot of chatter about just the setup and the structure of the entire thing. But it was solid. You know, I don't think it was terrible.
I still just as I'm talking to you, I get happy for you and proud of you because like you know, you're a guy like me, grew up in the area, you got dreams and you never know if you'll reach them. And I can just remember being younger and being at these big time events and sort of feeling like, man, I sort of made it a little bit. And I hope you can take a moment and just sort of appreciate that. It makes me happy to see you getting to do everything you're doing.
Man, appreciate you, Gary. I definitely always kind of come back to those moments. I'll give you a quick little story from yesterday. So, 2019 in Charlotte was my first All-Star game, and I was a college intern at Tri-State Defender that year. And I went to Charlotte because, I was going to school in Knoxville, 2.5 hour drive. So I drove over to All-Star weekend or whatever. And that was my first one. And I was just kind of, just getting my feet wet, so to speak, or whatever, and trying to get to know all these reporters. So I'm going up to national NBA guys. Hey, I'm Michael Cole. It's nice to meet you. And there were a couple guys at SI, Sports Illustrated in particular. And, they actually looked interested when they were talking to me. When you're a college kid going up to all these people, it's usually, hey, how you doing? All right, nice to meet you. But they were like, hey, how's college going and all those things. So I said, I just made a nice conversation with them. And I ended up interning at SI. And after I interned at SI, I kept in contact with these guys. And, of course, we all got our own busy schedule. So, you don't talk a lot over the years. But one of the reporters came up to me yesterday at All-Star Weekend, and he said, DeMichael, I just want to come by and say, hey. He was like, I don't know if you remember me. I'm like, dude, of course I remember you. Like, you were one of the reporters who actually, listened to what I said. He was like, man, it's just cool to see, you were a college kid just, coming up to us, introducing yourself. And he's like, man, I've been watching you cover the Grizzlies and whatnot. So, it kind of puts things in perspective to me, because I always think back to that college kid who, on his own dime drove up to Charlotte and covered the All-Star Weekend. And now, kind of getting this experience, man, Gary, it's fun.
I can remember being the same age and doing the same type of stuff. Like Memphis is in, I can't remember whether it was the Great Midwest Conference Tournament or the CUSA Tournament, but same deal. I was in college. It was in Cincinnati. On my own dime, I drove up. I got the credential, and I was just there. And I'm glad you remember that, and I'm glad the other person remembered that, and y'all could share that moment this week, because I remember people who were nice to me back then. I remember people who made me feel like I mattered back then, or made me feel like I belonged back then, because I probably didn't. And it can be intimidating, but I'll never forget the people who were not. It's easy to find people who will be nice to me now, right? That's easy.
Yep, exactly.
But when I was just a college kid who didn't really know anything and couldn't help you at all, would you still take a time to spend 2 minutes talking to me, even ask me anything about myself? I'm very busy. I'm not the best, but I try my best to be there for younger people. I'm glad that people were there for you, and I'm glad you guys got to share that moment this weekend. Let's talk about the actual All-Star game format, because it is now up for debate again. They tried something new, if only because nothing else works. Did this work? Was this an improvement? Was it a step in the right direction, or whatever?
Short answer, no, I don't think it worked. But here's the thing. I think there were positives that you can take from it to kind of get this thing going back in the right direction. At the end of the day, I don't know if there's ever an answer to kind of like the All-Star game, kind of having that nostalgic feel, or whatever the case may be. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but like just the player perspectives are just completely different than they were, 20 plus years ago. Like the league is so much more of a player driven league now than it's ever been before. It's just a different landscape. But getting into the games, I do think if you just watch the basketball games, they were a little bit more competitive. Like, guys were trying a little bit more. We saw it in the very first game. Jaren Jackson Jr., Victor Wembanyama, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The rookies came into the game, and they challenged, the other guys. Kyrie Irving's picking up full court, trying to pressure the basketball, because these young guys are, in the game. Like, you don't want to lose to a bunch of rookies and sophomores. So the competitiveness, I think that part of it was a little bit better. So they kind of, that was the number one goal, I think, from the league. Like, we have to make this thing more competitive. I think they did okay with that. So that's the good part. The bad part is pretty much everything else around that. If you listening to the players talk afterwards, and even, people in the media, like, everyone was so annoyed with the long breaks in between. I think I saw some stats, Gary, where it was like each of the games were roughly around 10 to 11 minutes, but there was a 3-hour broadcast. So essentially, we watched 3/4 of NBA basketball for a 3-hour broadcast. I mean, that is, like the players during, the TNT tribute break, the performances in between. I know Nikola Jokic talked about, the only thing he got out of it was being stiff. Other players were literally on the court, like kind of motioning to like, okay, let's get this thing going. Let's get the game back going. So the whole spectacle was very so on Sunday. This is just particularly speaking of Sunday. I don't know if you want to touch on Saturday and whatnot, but
yeah, but I think this is all good stuff and important because that's not a thing where the big breaks in between are just frustrating. It's also, and I don't mean to use a hyperbolic word, but dangerous. In sports, baseball and basketball aren't the same, but in sports, when you have a starting pitcher in a game and he's thrown, let's say, 42 pitches, and then you go into a rain delay, if that rain delay lasts too long, he cannot go back out there because they say he's been sitting here too long and it's dangerous to ramp him up again. So he's done for the day. That happens all the time in baseball. Right. Similarly, in basketball, I remember several years ago, it's probably a decade ago, more than that now, but after Kanye West had the Dark Fantasy album that was massive, they actually hired him to do the halftime performance of the NBA All-Star Game. You can go find this. And it was a pretty extended 15-minute concert. It was like a Super Bowl type of thing. And the players were like, we love Ye, but you can't have us standing around for 45 minutes in between the second and the third quarter. Our bodies aren't built for that. So I don't have much interest in a lot of the players complaining about All-Star Weekend, but that's a valid one. You cannot get up and run up and down as a professional basketball player, sit around for 90 minutes and then go do it again. That's not the way your bodies are built to operate. Yeah, exactly. And even it kind of going off of that point into another, I thought Jaren Jackson Jr. made kind of an excellent point, and one that is interesting. But I think there's a balance because he was one of the guys who was very competitive in this game, right, in this format, and it was very short. Like I know Jalen Williams talked about it. He was like, "Oh, I had fun." It just was very short. Zach Edey said, he wished he would have had a little bit more time on the floor because it just goes by so fast. But with all that being said, if you take the normal length of an NBA game, you do the whole East-West format, and you get this level of competitiveness, and maybe even a little bit more. Jaren pointed out the fact, and he was competitive, so I think he has the right to point this out. He said, what if, you ramp up the intensity and guys get hurt in the All-Star game? And he said it hasn't happened, but could you imagine if, a guy, pulls a growing muscle and now he's missing 2-3 weeks and, the second half of the All-Star break is short. It's a month and a half pretty much until the playoffs. Like it's a sprint. So those games are crucial and that break is critical. So Jaren kind of touched on that aspect of, guys got to be mindful of that too. And you don't want to get hurt, but I think the competitiveness, just going back to what we were saying, I don't think it was bad. I think just how they kind of put the game together and orchestrated it, it wasn't fun for the viewer. And I think that's a fair point from Jaren because it is true that I would like for them to be more competitive. But if Jaren would have went out there and been competitive yesterday, pulled a hamstring, and he's sidelined for a month, I would have been like, what are we doing? So I get that. And, I'm lucky enough to work with a handful of former NBA All-Stars, and I've had these conversations with them. And I think the most important thing for fans and people like myself to understand is that we can all wish and want as much as we want. But the truth is, broadly speaking, the players don't want to risk injury in this game. And here's the one, DeMichael, I've heard more than even the injury stuff. You know what former players tell me about All-Star Weekend, why they weren't ready to compete on Sunday night? It's not even typically fear of injury. You know what they say? You have no idea how you're tired because once you get to All-Star Weekend, it is just one appointment after another. You got to meet with Nike. You got to meet with Coca-Cola. You got to meet with this sponsor. You got to meet with this. And it's a party and it's a dinner and you're meeting. And they said by the time tip-off comes around on Sunday, you are just exhausted mentally, physically. And you don't want to compete. You're just ready to get back home. That's part of it. Imagine if on your third, because normal people can't think of what it's like to go to All-Star Weekend, but a lot of people listening right now have been to Las Vegas, right? Imagine on your third night in Vegas, you had to play a basketball game. Think about how you feel on your third night of Vegas. That's the way these dudes largely feel on their, on the Sunday of All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, that's a great point. And using Jaren Jackson Jr. as an example, I mean, he had so many things going on Friday and Saturday. He's going to the Rising Stars. He has all these interviews. I mean, if you watched him, he did the Taylor Rooks interview. He did the Dwayne Wade podcast. He did a Nike event, as well, as you mentioned. He went to Foot Locker. He went to the NBA crossover event. Like, all of this is crammed pretty much
Right.
into those first 2 days, Friday and Saturday, in addition to, the nights being later, right? You go out to these games, and then you might want to go out afterwards because you're technically on break, so you want to, relax a little bit. And next thing you know, you get up, Sunday, and it's game day. And some players try to stick to their normal routines. I know Victor Wembanyama tried to stick to his. Some players are very casual about it, but yeah, that's a great point. It's tough at that point. And I mean, even as a reporter, like you're trying to run around to this and run around to that, and like, oh, you want to get to this corporate event, you want to get to this guy's speaking engagement here, but you got this going on, you got that going on, and yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. Like Final Fours are similar. By the time we get to Monday night as a media member, I'm worn out. I've been out. Typically at the Final Four, we have done something on Thursday night, and then Friday night, and then Saturday night you're working late, and then Sunday night's out of hand. And yeah, like these things take a toll on you. And it's not always they don't want to compete. Sometimes it's just they are physically and mentally exhausted by the time we even get to Sunday night. A couple other things before I let you go. Mac McClung wins the dunk competition for the third straight year. John Morant tweets he might decide to come do it next season. Giannis jumps on it after that, subsequently says he was hacked, but whatever. Zach LaVine says maybe I'll get back involved. Is this just like Ja gets caught up in the moment watching what's happening on Saturday night, or do we think there's a chance John Morant could really compete in the dunk contest in 2026?
I think it's just a moment, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer because, we'd all love to see it, right? But Ja has said so many times, and I've asked him, I get tired of asking him questions, but I feel like we got to rehash it every year because it's going to be a talking point. As much as he dunks, as much, as excitement he brings to the game, people want to know, like, maybe he's changed his mind. Maybe he's going to change his mind. And we've seen this play out, a lot. Like you go back to, like, a lot of people, and honestly, it's what went through my mind as well when John Morant put out that post on X. A lot of people kind of were reminded of 2009 LeBron James when he said to I forget who, I think it was Cheryl Miller that he said it to, or Candace Parker. It may have been Candace Parker. But he said to one of them that as of now you can put LeBron James in the 2010 slam dunk contest. Then the 2010 slam dunk test, it came and went. LeBron James wasn't in it. He never did one. So, I think it's some of the, being caught up in the moment, the excitement. I mean, Mac McClung was throwing down some nasty stuff. Like, he was doing some dunks. And, I just look at Gary, I got this saying I always use. And I always say, look at the back of the baseball card, which is basically saying look at the bigger picture, right?
Right.
And the bigger picture here is John Morant has said so many times, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Like, it's to the point now, as soon as you bring up half the question, he'll interrupt you and be like, nope, not happening. So, I mean, we'll revisit. We'll revisit in about 6 months. We'll see where his head's at then. But, I mean, I would love to see it.
I would love to see it because that is what I grew up on. You're a little too young for it, but there was a time when it was Dominique Wilkins against Michael Jordan. Yeah. And not only would you watch that, you would get the VHS of it, and you would watch it again on Tuesday, and you'd watch it again on Thursday, and your buddies would come over on Saturday, and it's like, man, what are we going to watch today? And it's like, y'all want to watch the Wilkins-Jordan dunk contest again? And you'd put it back in, and we watch it again. And we just don't have that. Once upon a time, Michael Jordan did not think the dunk contest was beneath him. But now all these guys think it's beneath them. And so the question becomes, or at least a question I've seen trotted out there, is should you incentivize it for them? One suggestion I saw this weekend was 30 NBA teams, let them throw $333,000 each into a pot, roughly. That gets us to $10 million, and winner take all. John Morant, you want to come dunk for an hour and make $10 million tonight? Well, come on. Let's put $10 million up for grabs and see who wants to dunk. Do you think that'd move the needle?
Oh, it definitely would. $10 million would definitely move the needle for any NBA player. I think at the end of the day, they just don't see the value in it as much anymore. And I'm giving an example because when you talk to guys about the one-on-one thing, right? That was another big talking point over the course of this weekend. Would guys be interested in a one-on-one competition? Anthony Edwards is like, yeah. Kevin Durant's like, yeah, let's do it. Jaren Jackson Jr. is like, I'll do it. I'll even play soccer if they ask me to. So it's kind of, what's trendy, I guess. And I don't want to put too much on LeBron James, because if you go back before LeBron, though, like you said, your time was MJ and Dominique. My time was the Kobe's, the Vince Carters, Jason Richardson. These were the best dunkers of that time. Dwight Howard. They all participated in the slam dunk contest. Like Dwight Howard and Nate Robinson was kind of a fun little run right there. But now I think after the Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon thing, it was like, I don't know if I can top that. And then guys just kind of shied away from it. LeBron not doing it. Now the other stars, probably aren't as interested. Now you got Zion, John Morant, Anthony Edwards, all these big time athletes, and none of them are even close to putting their name into it. So maybe you do got to incentivize it. That's the only way I think you can get them to do it right now, because they're not going to just go in and do the format just for the love.
Last thing before I get you out of here, we've touched on Jaren Jackson Jr. a lot. You were with him post-game yesterday, and I just loved everything he said. The big quote, I'm just ready to get back to Memphis. I'm ready to get back focused on the Grizzlies. I'm ready to get back to my teammates. As he is having the best season of his career and has really emerged as a dynamic offensive player to go with his obvious defensive player of the year, stuff that he brings to the table. I just really liked hearing him say, this was fun. This is an experience. This is probably going to make me, $300 million someday. He didn't say that, but you get the point. But yeah, I can't wait to get back to Memphis, be with my teammates, and get focused on us, trying to secure, again, I'm paraphrasing here, but secure the 2 seed in the West and make a run at this thing. He just really seems to have his mind in the right place right now.
He's locked in, man. He said it a couple times. It was in different segments of the interview. He said it at the beginning, and then 3-4 minutes in, he's like, I'm just ready to get back to my teammates. So he meant it. It wasn't just some player talk right after the game. Like, oh yeah, I'm back to Memphis. Like, let's go to Memphis now. He meant it, and the transition of Jaren into this kind of, the whole weekend for him, he owned the moment, which is no surprise if you follow his community work in Memphis and all the things that he does. He's always been a guy who the cameras, shy away from Jaren more than Jaren shies away from the cameras, if anything. Jaren is not camera shy by any stretch of the imagination, but he really captured this weekend, and he's a star. He's definitely a star. And then turning the page to the Grizzlies, he's ready to roll, and they're gonna need Jaren to continue to play at the levels that he's been playing at. As we said earlier, it's a sprint, the rest of the way. First 2 games, boom, back to back against a couple really solid teams, and then your third game is against Cleveland. So 3 and 4 on the road right out of the break against some really good Eastern Conference teams, and that's where Jaren's mind is. He said he's gonna get back. He's going to get off his flight, and he said he might spend half of today, getting a little rest. But he was like, I got to work out today. So the second half of the day, later on in the evening, usually he does morning workouts. Probably won't do morning workout after a flight from the West Coast. So he's going to do an evening workout. But yeah, he's ready to roll, and it's good to see. Jaren is really becoming a star, and I think that is notable considering we've kind of. The picture's been built around Ja Morant, and obviously so. Ja, no one sells tickets like Ja, around here. But at the same time, Jaren, the way he's grown from what I felt like, it's like he's been Memphis' star for a while, and now he's kind of becoming, even more.
That is DeMichael Cole from the Commercial Appeal. Make sure you're reading him, commercialappeal.com, and follow him on Twitter /X at DeMichael C. That's at DeMichael C. You're the best, buddy. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for getting up early on the West Coast. Travel home safely, and I can't wait to see you in person sometime real soon.
I appreciate you, Gary. Thank you for having me.
All right, brother. Now, thank you for being here. That's DeMichael Cole from the Commercial Appeal. Good stuff, All-Star Weekend from him. You can find it at commercialappeal.com. We come back, turn our attention to Tiger basketball. It was not a good weekend. They took a quadrant 3 loss at Wichita State. How bad is that? They now have 3. Guess how many teams in the top 25 of the net rankings right now have even 1? The answer is 0. Not a single team in the top 25 of the net has even 1 quadrant 3 loss. Memphis now has 3. Sliding down the brackets, that 4 seed that you might have been hoping for doesn't look likely now. Well, I'll give you some disturbing numbers connected to the Tigers' resume. We'll do that next. It's the Gary Parrish Show presented by Ortho South.
Where will Aaron Rodgers play?
Gosh.
God, I can't believe we're doing this again.
You know who it's going to be.
Oh.
Tennessee Titans. Tighten up.
Oh, no.
You know they're going to do it. You know they're going to do it.
Tune in to the Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt live every weekday at 8 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We got Southern Heritage Classic news. Mike, Tennessee State out. Where do you think the Classic goes from here? Is this a thing that sort of dooms this Classic, Southern Heritage Classic?
I don't ever bet against Fred Jones. I don't count Fred Jones out. You have to have the event. You have to continue to have the weekend, and a football game has to be part of it.
Get all of your HBCU sports and culture news by tuning in to HBCU Huddle with CJ Hurt and Mike Wallace. New episodes drop every Thursday on grindcitymedia.com, YouTube, and Spotify.
Grizzlies fans know it's the team that gives you the edge. Big River Steel does too. And much like the Grizzlies have recruited legendary talent, we want you to be part of our team. Are you ready to be part of something legendary? Then visit www.bigriversteel.com. That's www.bigriversteel.com.
Can't wait. It's time to get it popping.
It's going to be crazy. The fans are going to be loud. We need just energy.
Behind the back to Jaren for the flush.
We're going to need, the form rocking. We're going to need, everybody in Memphis to be out there to come to support. When the fans are good, we're good. Simple as that.
A Bain 3. Yes, sir. Desmond Bain with ice water in his veins.
We'll ride the energy together.
Memphis Cat is back with his Heaven on Earth tour.
I tried to be incognito, but thanks to Shannon Sharp's loud mouth, the gig is up.
February 22nd in the FedEx Forum.
In my spare time, I infiltrate the Illuminati, look for their secrets, run back, tell y'all.
Don't miss this year's most talked about comedy icon live. He's back with brand new material, an unmatched wit, and an electrifying performance. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com.
At the National Civil Rights Museum, history moves us forward. The question remains, how does history move you?
Keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
A night of comedy with Sebastian Maniscalco and Jim Gaffigan.
Now, is this a family? Is this your mother? Where is she? Is she in the crowd? You don't know where your mom is. The mom's up there. What kind of family is this? I'm sorry.
Sebastian Maniscalco and Jim Gaffigan.
I went ziplining for the last time. What is wrong with us? Would you pay $200 to feel like you're about to die 6 times?
Live in Memphis, FedEx Forum, Friday, February 21st. Get tickets now at livenation.com.
It's your turn to drive into luxury at Southland Casino Hotel. Join us on Saturdays to win your share of up to $1 million in free play and prizes. And don't miss the chance to take home luxury itself during the grand finale drawings. Drive off in a 2025 Land Rover on February 1st or a 2025 Range Rover on March 1st. 2 vehicles, 2 finales, 1 million ways to enjoy luxury only at Southland Casino Hotel. Must be 21 or up. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 800-522-4700.
Orthopedic injuries can be unpredictable, unforeseen, and unscheduled, and Ortho South understands this better than anyone. Since your injuries don't make appointments, you don't need to either. That's because Ortho South welcomes walk-ins during the weekdays, in the evenings, and even on Saturdays. So next time an unforeseen injury makes an unscheduled appearance in your life, visit orthosouth.org to find your nearest urgent care location. Just walk in and Ortho South will take care of everything, especially you. Learn more at orthosouth.org. That's OrthoSouth at orthosouth.org. Now I got 5 more things you need to know.
Number 1.
Penny Hardaway's Tigers took another quadrant 3 loss this weekend at Wichita State. That's 3 on the season, Bennett. Final score, Wichita State 84, Memphis 79 in overtime. Our nightmare is becoming a reality. Not like last season. They haven't collapsed so much that they're going to miss the NCAA tournament, I don't think. But they are doing real damage to their resume with 3 quadrant 3 losses, because just to provide some context so you understand how unusual that is for a quote-unquote good team, there is not a single team in the top 25 of the net as of this morning with even 1 quadrant 3 loss. Auburn has 0. Ole Miss has 0. Alabama has 0. All the teams in the top 25 of the net combined have 0. Memphis has 3. Nobody else in the top 50 of the net has more than 2. And Villanova is the only team in the top 55 of the net besides Memphis that has 3 losses outside of the first 2 quadrants. Villanova has 2 quadrant 3s and then 1 in quadrant 4. So you ready for this? The only 2 teams in the top 55 of the net right now that have at least 3 losses outside of the first 2 quadrants are Memphis and Villanova. And Villanova's about to fire its coach. That's where we're at.
Oh boy. Okay. So first and foremost, just that everything about that sucked because it was like an awesome college basketball weekend, and I watched so much college hoops and was fired up for the game yesterday, and just, I think that the thing that sucks the most is a road overtime loss to Wichita State. Just when you say it like that, that should not wreck your seeding if you're a good team in the country, if you're one of the better teams in the country, which I think we agree Memphis is one of the better teams. They've been in the top 25 consistently for most of this season. But that is currently their life in the AAC because they lose this game. Again, it's a road loss in overtime at Wichita State. That's a proud college basketball school. I know they haven't been great lately. You just have nowhere to make it up. You can't get it back. You don't. The next week for most of these good teams, you're playing a top 30, 40, 50 team in the country to be able to make this up. Memphis just doesn't have that opportunity. That's why this one hurts so much more than it really should,
The highest ranked team in the net with 3 losses outside of the first 2 quadrants is Memphis. And the next highest ranked team with 3 losses outside of the first 2 quadrants in the net is Villanova. And Villanova is less than a month away from firing its coach. That's what we're dealing with right now. You're exactly right. It's the problem with playing in this league that all you get are games like this. And when you mess up, you don't have a way to undo it. Like if you're in the Big 12 and let's say you lose a bad game to a bad Big 12 team. Let's say you lose a home game to Colorado. All right. You probably got a game against Texas Tech coming up or against Houston coming up or against Arizona coming up. And it's like, okay, we took a bad loss here, but we got 3 big games coming up. If we take care of that, we can cancel this out. When you're Memphis, there is no place to cancel anything out. And that is the biggest reason why they're going to be punished by the selection committee. Also, the predictive metrics, their computer numbers in the predictive metrics are not good. That's another reason they're going to get dinged by the selection committee. But the biggest issue is going to be they're taking too many bad losses without having the opportunities to make up for them. I was in studio all day Saturday with Jerry Palm. We had our bracket preview show on CBS. So they're in one studio doing that. We're in the other studio doing that. But we're all sort of mingling. And I'm talking to Jerry Palm, and I said, Jerry, and I know the answer, but I just wanted to get it from his mouth so then I could tell it to you. Hey, Jerry, Memphis is in the top 15 of the AP poll. Memphis has a strength of record that is top 15 in the country. But the bracket preview show was just on CBS, and the selection committee told us Memphis isn't even in the top 16. And then they added 2 other schools when talking about schools that are close, the implication being that Memphis isn't even in the top 18. So you can look at the AP poll and be like, Memphis is in the top 15. But according to the selection committee, as of Saturday morning, they're not even in the top 18. Jerry, why? You know what he said? Well, it's the quadrant 3 losses. Other teams that are competing for 1 seeds or 2 seeds or 3 seeds or 4 seeds, they don't have quadrant 3 losses. And Memphis has multiple quadrant 3 losses. You ready for this? This conversation was on Saturday. Then Memphis added another quadrant 3 on Sunday. And does further damage to its resume. As we speak, the AP poll, I do not believe, has published yet. It should be coming out within the hour or roughly about an hour. And I don't know that Memphis will be out of it, but they could. I have Memphis 25th in the top 25 and 1 right now. And if you want me to justify it, I can. And it will start with the strength of the wins. They have 5 quadrant 1 victories and some big wins in there. A victory over Missouri, a victory over Michigan State. They've got some good wins. But if you wanted to leave Memphis out of your ballot today, remember when I used to write that poll attacks column and I would make fun of AP voters? If AP voters wanted to leave Memphis off their ballot today, I wouldn't be able to make fun of them for it. There's a lot of data to support leaving Memphis out of the top 25. And it's just, I don't want to do a whole conference realignment segment once a week for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I got it.
But this is a byproduct of what we've been talking about. Memphis is a good basketball team, but Memphis is not so good that it can just play this schedule in this league and never expect to slip up at all. This is where I think people get it a little twisted up, even among Memphis fans, when they're looking at what's happening right now and contrasting it with John Calipari and Conference USA once John got it going in 2006 and Louisville, Cincinnati, and all those big programs got out of the league. At that point, John found himself coaching in a very similar league to what this current version of AAC is. That version of CSA was not that different than this version of the AAC. So over the weekend, as Penny takes a 3rd quadrant 3 loss, I see some people pointing out, well, you know, every time somebody argues, well, this is the problem with being in the American, there's too many landmines and there's no buried treasures. They're just landmines. You ain't never going to find a pot of gold. You're just going to step on something that blows you up. As people are making that point, I've heard some others counter with, well, hey, this wasn't a problem for John Calipari. You can say that this league is holding Penny Hardaway and the Tigers back, but John Calipari was getting 1 seeds out of CUSA. Well, yeah, by going undefeated, literally undefeated for years at a time in CUSA. So then I guess the counterpoint would be, well, then that's what Penny should do. And I guess I would just tell you
that just doesn't happen anymore.
It's just not. I'm not here to defend Penny Hardaway. I have been both his biggest praiser and at other times biggest critic. I've just tried to tell the truth about him whenever I'm asked. Sometimes the truth is good and sometimes the truth isn't. But I'm not conditioned to just defend Penny Hardaway blindly. So that's not what I'm doing right now. But what I'm telling you is that it is unfair to hold him to that standard. Hey, Penny, you got to go play an entire conference schedule and you can't lose a game or else you're sucking, because that's not real life. I know John Calipari could do it, but that's John Calipari, Hall of Fame basketball coach. Oh, by the way, with at different parts in his program, Derrick Rose, Tyreek Evans, Darius Washington, Rodney Carney, Anthony Rice, Sean Williams, Robert Dozier, Antonio Anderson, Joey Dorsey, Chris Douglas Wright, Robert. Like the best John Calipari team had the #1 pick in the draft, plus a different person who was a first-team All-American, plus at least 2 more people who were future NBA draft picks. Tyrese Hunter's good. He ain't that. Tyrese Hunter's good. He ain't Derrick Rose. PJ Haggerty's good. He's not Chris Douglas Roberts. So, yeah, when you have Chris Douglas Roberts and Derrick Rose and Joey Dorsey and Antonio Anderson and Robert Dozier, you can play a schedule like this and never lose because you're 25 points better than everybody else.
Right.
These Tigers are good, but they're not 25 points better than everybody else, especially on the road. So you're going to slip up and you're going to lose some, and it just kills you. It's why you've got to get out of this league one way or another eventually, because this is what life in this league is like, and it's not going to be fun for you ever. You don't want to know why? Because you ain't ever having Derrick Rose and Kiss Douglas Roberts in your backcourt again. All right? That ain't the way this is ever going to work again. Yeah, when you have Derrick Rose and Chris Douglas Roberts as your starting guards, play any mid-major schedule, and you'll probably roll right through it. You don't have that now. You've got good college basketball players. Not that. So here's the issue. Do you know right now Memphis has played 13 AAC games? This is the problem with the league. They played 13 AAC games, and 11 of them are quadrant 3 or quadrant 4. 11 of the 13. It is nothing but landmines. Think about it this way. In the SEC, the only things that do not fall in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2 for you as a basketball team are home games against LSU and South Carolina. That's it. Every other game you can possibly play in the SEC is quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. So you might take losses, but you ready? You're never taking bad losses. And your wins are always great wins. In the AAC, you take nothing but bad losses, and your wins don't matter. That's not fun.
No.
Think of it as a video game, and I've told you, Bennett, here's a video game, whatever video game you want it to be. Let's call it Fortnite. I don't even know how Fortnite works other than I watch my kids sometimes. But let's just call it Fortnite. Hey, Bennett, I want you to play Fortnite. Okay, GP, what's the deal? Well, there's nothing good that can happen. You're just going to run around for the next 2 months in this Fortnite world. Nothing good can happen for you. But you can get killed over and over again. Well, that's not a fun game to play. You're telling me nothing good can happen, only bad things. That's right. So if I live through the day, then you just live through the day. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And if I get blown up, well, then you're dead. That's life in the AAC. You're playing for months at a time, and nothing good can come of it. When you win a game, we go, well, of course they won. They should have. It's a bad team. Congrats on your quad 3 win. Congrats on your quad 4 win. But when you slip up and lose one, because you're going to, even Steph Curry misses a free throw every once in a while, well, then it's a quad 3 loss. Now you got 3. Now you're sliding. I'm not saying there's an easy solution to it, right? I know if Ed Scott were sitting here, he'd say, GP, what do you want me to do? We ain't got that kind of money, or the travel's too bad, or the ACC doesn't want us yet. I got it. I'm just saying that should be priority number one. Priority number one, because you can continue to build your football program and basketball program as big as you can build them. But as long as you're building them in this neighborhood, you will always just have a nice house in a bad neighborhood. You'll always just have the best you can do right now is just have a nice house in a bad neighborhood. Your neighbors ain't taking care of their yards. Your neighbors ain't painting the house. They ain't cutting the grass. They ain't weed eating. They're not investing like you are. You can have a nice house, but it's going to be in a terrible neighborhood, and it's not fun driving around the neighborhood. Right now, Memphis is just driving around the neighborhood, looking at beat-up houses and overgrown grass. And I know that there's a Wichita State fan out there or a Temple fan out there saying, well, if they're so good, why do they ever lose? Because sometimes even Steph Curry is going to miss a free throw. Even Memphis, better than everybody else in the AC, is going to slip up and lose games.
Yep.
And you got nowhere to make it good. It's just bad stuff on top of bad stuff. Priority number one has got to be to figure out how to get to a better league. I know it's not an easy solution, but that is where the energy needs to be, because we are either learning or remembering in real time what life is like in these leagues. You won 11 games as a football program and couldn't draw people to your football stadium. You've been ranked and your men's basketball program all season. You're not drawing big crowds, and now you're damaging your resume, where if you're still ranked today, you're one more of these losses away from being unranked. You ready for this? Even if Memphis is still in the AP poll today, you can't lose again. I don't care how many games you win. You lose again, you're out. You lose again, you're out. That's the life you live, and it's not fun. Hopefully they can figure it out, get into a better league like some of our old friends from the AAC have done over recent years. That's a setup for the next one. Watch this.
Number 2.
Houston went to Arizona and won this weekend to take a 2-game lead in the Big 12. And I won't spend much time on this, but it is amazing what Kelvin Sampson is doing at Houston.
Dude, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I can't overstate. People love to remember, if they're old enough, Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, Phi Slamma Jamma, the 80 Houston Cougars. But after that, throughout the 90s and the 2000s, when I was the beat writer and I would go to Houston, like the worst. You couldn't believe they used to compete for national championships.
Right.
You
Dude, I remember the CUSA days.
Dark, building
Yes.
dark and empty and just ugh. Like you couldn't believe Hakeem Olajuwon played basketball here. What happened?
Right.
All right. And then they hire Kelvin, and it took him a couple years to get it going. But are you ready for this? In the past 6 seasons, listen to me. In the past 6 seasons, Houston has won 5 conference championships. 4 of them were in the AAC. 1 of them was in the Big 12. The only time Houston didn't win a conference championship in that span was 2021, and that's because the AAC administration screwed it up. That's the year after the COVID pandemic canceled the NCAA tournament. And we had that subsequent season where teams were getting shut down for 2 weeks at a time, and you'd skip games, and it was imbalanced schedules. And Wichita State, because of COVID that year, only played 13 conference games. And they gave the conference championship to them because they had a higher winning percentage than Houston, which played many more conference games. And it was just like wrong. They just messed it up. They didn't know how to handle an unprecedented situation, but the way they handled it allowed an inferior team to win a conference championship. My point is, if the AAC office knew how to better deal with that ridiculous schedule, Houston would have won another conference championship then. Houston was the best team in the league then. So Houston has been the best team in its league the past 6 years, without exception, and is now doing it once again for a 7th straight year. And it's one thing when you're doing it in the AAC, because you know what people say about you when you're doing it in the AAC? Well, what would happen if they were in a real league? Okay, how about we put them in the Big 12, which has been the best league in the country for 10 years. They won it last year in year 1 by 2 games, even though the preseason #1 team in the whole country, Kansas, was in the league. Lose Jamal Shead, first-team All-American. How are they going to replace that and still be good? Here they are. They have a 2-game lead in the Big 12 standings. Kelvin Sampson, for the 7th straight year, has the best team in his conference, regardless of the conference. Incredible.
Dude, and it's insane, too, how, like, he is just able to go and find, like, the best, upperclassman point guard in the country. Like, it's like he is so good. And if every team could do it, they would. Like, all of these good teams, like, he is so good at finding that guard that's just like an upperclassman that just is a great college basketball player. He has it every year on his team.
You know what I think is closer to true, though? Because you're exactly right. You know what I think is true? He goes out and finds an upperclassman guard who's good, and then they're great because of where he put them.
Yeah.
He makes them great. I remember a similar conversation, NBA draft a few years ago, whatever draft it was, where Scotty Barnes was in it and Jalen Suggs was in it. And I don't remember exactly the draft order, but it was like the Magic were picking somewhere and then the Raptors were picking somewhere. And I remember being on CBS Sports HQ, and somebody asked me, who do you think is going to be the better pro, Jalen Suggs or Scotty Barnes? And it was pretty clear at that point that one of those guys was going to Orlando and one of them was going to Toronto. Or at least people were speculating on that. And here was my answer. Who's going to be the better pro? The one that goes to Orlando or no, Jalen Suggs or Scotty Barnes? And I said the one that goes to Toronto. Whichever one Toronto drafts, that'll be the better one, because they have a history of developing players a little better than Orlando. So if Jalen Suggs goes to Toronto, I'll go with Jalen Suggs. But if Scotty Barnes goes to Toronto, I'll go with Scotty Barnes. Whichever one Toronto picks, I'll put my trust that that's going to be the better player, because I believe in that franchise more than I believe in this other franchise. Similarly with Kelvin Sampson, I don't know if LJ Cryer would be doing this anywhere, or anybody else on Houston's roster would be doing this anywhere, but they do it where they're at. And they do it because there's something about a Kelvin Sampson team that the players quite literally change, but the team doesn't really look that different. The identity's the same. The stuff they're good at's the same. The stuff they might struggle with, kind of the same. They have a real sense for what it is they're trying to do. They coach it, they teach it, they develop it, and he's running just maybe I know UConn just won back-to-back titles, but Kelvin might be running the best program in the country as it pertains to consistently being awesome. Has already been to one Final Four. I think would have gone to another one last year if Jamal Shead doesn't get hurt in the Sweet 16. And he's obviously got a team that's going good enough to try to go do it again this season. Awesome stuff from our old AAC friends, the Houston Cougars.
Number 3.
History was made in Tuscaloosa, Alabama this weekend. Auburn goes to Alabama in the first ever 1 versus 2 matchup in SEC basketball history. And they jump to a 9-0 lead, never trail, win the game to improve to 14-2 in quadrant 1 and just widen the gap between them and everybody else. You can never say anything certain this deep out from Selection Sunday, but it is hard to imagine at this point anybody replacing Auburn as the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. They're 14-2 in quadrant 1. We talk about quadrant stuff all the time because of the Tigers. I mentioned to you, Memphis has 5 quadrant 1 wins, and that's good. Auburn has 14. And they only have 2 losses.
Insane.
They only have 2 losses. And the 2 losses are to teams that are ranked in the top 5 at KenPom. The top 6 at KenPom is Auburn and 5 other teams, obviously. And Auburn has played the other 5 teams, all of them. Lost to Duke in Florida, but beaten Tennessee, Houston, and Alabama. They only have 2 losses on the season, 14 quadrant 1 wins. That means they have fewer losses than any other ranked team and at least 6 more quadrant 1 wins than any other team in America. And Bruce Pearl, I mentioned making history. Here's what the history is. In the history of college basketball, nobody has ever won 2 number 1 versus number 2 matchups relative to the AP poll on the road. And Bruce now has done it. The first one you'll remember, February 2008, number 2 Tennessee comes to FedEx Forum as an underdog on the road, beats number 1 Memphis, and now 8 days short of the 17-year anniversary of that game, Bruce Pearl took number 1 Auburn to number 2 Alabama on the road, still as an underdog. Auburn as number 1 was a 2.5-point underdog at tip-off and won the game, making Bruce Pearl the first ever coach to win multiple 1 versus 2 matchups on the road. He's like, that's a Hall of Fame career that he's put together. And I don't know if Auburn's going to win a national championship, but they look the part. I mean, to go in there and just jump on the second best team in the country the way they did, super, super impressive. And, you know, when Bruce gets run out of Tennessee, you never know if he's, going to get back to high major basketball or SEC basketball. He took a sales job. Do you know that there were moments in time where we would at 92.9 call Bruce Pearl and have him on the show, and he would be talking to us from his company car because he was out making sales trips around the state of Tennessee.
That is wild.
He was a salesman, and I know, like, he was Bruce Pearl first and foremost. He was only a salesman because somebody decided, let's make Bruce Pearl a salesman in the state of Tennessee. But he was a salesman for a portion of time. And he was out of it for a few years. But then Auburn took a chance, finally hired him even before his show call penalties were up, and now he has built Auburn into an absolute monster. Single elimination tournaments where you got to win 6 games, they're difficult to navigate. You need some luck to survive it.
Yeah.
But this is the best team in the country. You watch it with your eyeballs, they look like the best team in the country. You start breaking down the resume, they look like they undeniably are the best team in the country. Auburn, I know Duke is still the most talented team in the country, but Auburn looks like the best, and Bruce Pearl's got a team headed for the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. That would be the first time in school history that's ever happened for that program.
Number 4.
Aaron Rodgers reportedly pleaded with the New York Jets not to move on from him before they said, no, buddy, we're moving on from you. Life comes at you fast, doesn't it, Bennett?
Yeah, that was surprising to see, just because I don't think you've maybe ever in the history of the NFL had a player begging to remain a New York Jet, but that's what happened there. I think it is one of those things where you just think, like, I know this hasn't gone great, but there's been some reasons why it hasn't and will be. I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, you do not see that coming, right? That they're going to move on from you. I know that there's been rumblings and whatnot. I just think if you're him, The way he kind of has the blinders on sometimes, I don't think you see that coming. And then when it hits you, it's like, whoa, I might be done. Like, I might be out of the league. This might be it.
I think I can understand why he didn't see it coming. I think you should see it coming unless you're so used to being Aaron Rodgers that you just can't possibly see it coming. You have to understand in his life, for the most part, for decades, literally decades, he's been so great at this very specific thing that he could kind of do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Right? You know, show up, not show up, be weird, not be weird, be a difficult teammate, be a difficult employee. But I think the benefit of hindsight is real helpful right now. For years, the Packers dealt with this, right? They just allowed Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers, and he would ruffle feathers and say some things that they didn't like, and even the COVID stuff was like it was all weird. Regardless of how you feel about COVID, the way he handled it was weird relative to the way basically every other quarterback in the NFL was handling it. He was misleading, and the Packers just dealt with it for years and years. And do you know what happened? Eventually, you know what they said? We're tired of this, man. We just don't want to deal with you anymore. And it happened to align perfectly with a terrible season as he was aging. His last year in Green Bay was not good. But the Jets focused, and I think most football people focused on everything outside of that most recent year in Green Bay and just said, well, yeah, that wasn't good, but everything else has been good leading up to that. So, you know, he'll bounce back. And so then the Jets would do – it was just 2 years ago where they were willing to do basically anything to try to get him. 2 years later, they tell him to go away when he's begging you, please, no, let me stay. That's how quickly this can happen. And ultimately, the Jets reached the same conclusion that the Packers reached. They just reached it 2 years later. And you know what that conclusion is? Buddy, you are not good enough to be causing all these headaches anymore. Once upon a time, you were. You were good enough for the headaches, but not anymore. You're when you're one of the three best quarterbacks in the world, then skip off-season workouts and go to Egypt if you want to. Go sit in the dark for 7 days if you want to. Go on Pat McAfee's show every week and say something that is going to raise eyebrows if you're a top three quarterback in the world. But you're not that anymore. You're not worth the trouble anymore. Green Bay smartly decided that 2 years ago. They already saw what was coming. New York was just focused on maybe we can have an MVP quarterback. Let's do it. But they very quickly learned the same thing Green Bay already learned. This guy is not worth this trouble anymore. I had a college basketball coach tell me this one time that he actually subscribes to this way. Told me a story about a specific player. I won't leave the names out of it, but you'll get the point. So he had this one player, couldn't stop, failing drug test, and they could work around him, but it was just like frustrating. Like, don't make me keep going to my athletic director and vouching for you when you're going to keep popping positive on these drug tests, man. Like, I'm keeping in, like, please just help me. But he wouldn't. Showing up late for classes, skipping classes. Finally, the coach calls the player. This was like a top 50 player coming out of high school. College coach telling me this story. He said, so GP, I called him in, and I set him down. It's like his sophomore year. And I said, hey, bud, I just, want to do this face-to-face, but just so there's no confusion, when this season is over, you are transferring. You're out of here. And he said, what? Coach, what? What's wrong? Coach, what are you talking about? He said, we tried this. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's yours. Maybe it's both of ours, but it's not working. It's time to move on. And when this season's over, you got to go. And he said the kid was blown away because he's never had a coach tell him this. He's a top 50 high school player in America. Never had somebody say, we don't want. His whole life, people have been saying, please be on my team. 2 years ago, I was saying, please be on my team. But I have reached the point where I don't want you on my team anymore. And I said, okay, that's interesting. And the coach said, now ask me a follow-up question. I said, what's the follow-up? He said, ask me how many points per game he was averaging at the time. I said, how many? He said, 2.7. If he'd have been averaging 17.7, we'd have dealt with it. If he'd have been averaging 17.7, I might have got him fake urine. I might have peed in a cup for him if he was averaging 17.7 and shooting 43% from three. But he was averaging 2.7 points per game. You think I'm going to deal with all this shit over somebody averaging 2.7 points per game? No way. You got to go. You ain't better than your problems. That's a great life lesson for everybody in every walk of life. Personal relationship, professional relationship, workplace stuff. Always be asking yourself, if you're a problem sometimes, you better always be more valuable than your problems are detrimental. Because the second you're not, that's when it gets you very easy to move on from. If you're going to show up for work every day late, you better be so awesome at work that nobody cares. But once you ain't good at your job anymore, and it's forever been difficult for people to coexist with you at your job, well, then nobody wants you around. You tell me Aaron Rodgers could be first-team All-NFL next season, All-Pro? I'll tell you somebody who would be welcome back to the Jets. If I could tell the Jets he'll be a top 5 quarterback in the league next year, they'd say bring him back and let him talk to McAfee for 2 hours every Wednesday. We don't care. But he ain't that anymore. He's not very good anymore. He might be good enough to still play in the NFL somewhere, but the franchise that's been dealing with him for the past 2 years, that knows what it's like to be around him and deal with him and cater to him, they have obviously and undeniably decided you are not good enough to be a problem here anymore. We'd rather move forward with somebody who won't cause all this other stuff. They might not be as good a quarterback as you, but they'll be younger and they'll be less of a problem. He, for the first time in his life, maybe the second time, because Green Bay kind of told him something similar, but for the first time in his life, Aaron Rodgers is really going to have to look in a mirror and decide, do I want to keep playing football or do I want to keep being Aaron Rodgers? Because what franchises are telling us right now is they're not interested in Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers if he isn't also awesome at football.
Number 5.
SNL50 celebration was this weekend. Happened just right down the street down there. It was a big crowd all over Midtown Manhattan last night, down by Rockefeller Center. And I didn't go. At one point, Kelly was like, we should walk down there. And I was like, nah, it's cold.
I mean, I think you had to be a celebrity to be in that audience.
No. Not we weren't trying to get in the audience. She was just like, should we just walk down to Rockefeller Center and just
just staying around, see what's going on.
But there's just a big crowd to party down there. It's like, hey, here's Kim Kardashian and here's Chris Rock and here's Eddie Murphy and here's Paul McCartney. And she's like, you just want to walk by? And I was like, it's cold, but it's so cold. I think we should just go to dinner and then watch it on TV. So that's what we did. We went to dinner and then we watched it on TV here in the hotel room. Did you consume SNL50, Bennett? Any part of it?
I did. I watched a lot of it. I had that on, had the All-Star game on. And it was really good, man. I mean, I think that honestly, the thing that was cool about it to me, just as someone who likes nostalgia, like that was the coolest part, was just seeing all these old faces that you've watched for so many years come back and be a part of this thing. I thought that was the coolest thing. Like, it was like every segment was like, oh, whoa, I can't believe so-and-so's here. That was the coolest part, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, you get Debbie Downer a bit, right?
Yeah,
that's back. And Steve Martin monologue was fine. And then you got Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively in the crowd, and they have that little moment touching on, with a wink and a laugh, their ongoing lawsuit and that whole weird Justin Baldoni thing. And then you get the musical performances, and those are fun. And then they let Paul McCartney, the 82-year-old Beatle, close it out. I've quite literally grown up with SNL. Like SNL50, I'm 48 years old. It has been there my entire life, and I have consumed it my entire life. There's never been a time where I was like, yeah, I don't watch Saturday Night Live anymore. There have been times where I just didn't see it because I was out or whatever. But I hope they continue it for another 50 years. I don't really understand the reason not to. I hear sometimes people say that, it's not as good as it used to be. But that's exactly like what we talked about last week when people say things like music isn't as good as it used to be. Most people, not me, but most people attach the quality of stuff to their youth. There is a reason why everybody attaches the quality of something to their youth. Mm-hmm. The best music, in your opinion, is the music that was made between the ages of 12 and 22 for you. Something like that. And so if you grew up watching Saturday Night Live, if you were 12 to 22 when Chevy Chase was a star, then you probably think that's when it was good, and it's never been good since then. If you were Dana Carvey years, you probably think that's when it was good, and it's never been good since then. If you were Adam Sandler years, you probably think that's when it was the best, and it's never been good since then. But the truth is, it's always been about what it is. Sure, there's better cast than others, but like I can just tell you as somebody who still does watch Saturday Night Live, it can still be hilarious. There are still funny bits. And even if there's not, sometimes you still get a big star hosting every week, a big musical guest every week. Weekend Update is funny every week. If nothing else, it just gives me on Saturday night, and lots of people on Saturday night, a live, fresh show to watch that comes on at 10:30 Central, and one of the biggest stars in the world is probably going to be hosting, and one of the biggest musical guests in the world is probably going to be performing, and Weekend Update will probably make you laugh. That's good enough for me. Why do we not want that? Who wouldn't want that? I know it's not for everybody, but like there's still clearly an audience for it. Big stars still prioritize it. Like Paul McCartney was there last night. You know, if you want, if Chapel Roan becomes the biggest thing and you want her on SNL, you can get her on SNL. When Kendrick Lamar is winning all the Grammys, if you want him on SNL, he'll come be there on SNL. So it still matters to the artists. It still matters to the comedians and the actors. So if people still want to participate in it, what's the problem? I hear people saying they should just stop it at 50. I say take it to 100. Bennett, where are you at on this?
I'm down to take it to 100 as well. I don't watch it like I used to. Obviously, our habits change and TV viewing habits change. Like I feel like SNL is one of those things now that I see more of like the clips online, or like maybe I'll watch it on demand later. I'm watching it like in real time like we all used to. But I still do see it. And again, I thought that they did a really good job of like just the whole nostalgia of it all. And I thought the music thing was really cool that they did the night, I guess it was Saturday night that they did. And I mean, obviously everyone's talking about Post Malone performing with Nirvana, and I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool, man. And you could tell those guys thought it was cool. You could tell Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic thought it was cool. Yeah,
and it was cool. And it's only cool if you've just decided you don't want it to be cool. If you're just out there hating for some reason.
That's right.
It's a lot of the stuff we talked about last week, and we talk about sometimes. Just people very eager to just shit on stuff, and I'm just not like that. I'm not eager. I am. You ready for this? Like the hockey thing that's going on right now. Like I love the fights and stuff that I saw the other night. That seemed fun, but I am broadly speaking not interested in it. I don't even really know what's going on, and yet I'm not compelled, as I see other people enjoying it, to jump on and be like, I don't even know why you're watching this. This is stupid. I don't know why people do that. Like why people, if I'm not interested, like what's today? Monday? Like I remember used to on Mondays, this would always be the analogy I would use. The Bachelorette would be on, or The Bachelor would be on, and people would just be nonstop tweeting about The Bachelor or Bachelorette or whatever. Well, I don't care about The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. I don't watch either show. It never even occurred to me to jump in under their tweets and be like, I don't know why y'all watch this stupid stuff. But people will do that with SNL or anything. I just don't understand that approach to life. It seems miserable to me. So I saw a little bit of the negative stuff last night, and a little bit of the negative stuff connected to Post Malone and everything. There is always somebody out there to tell you that you shouldn't be excited about something you're excited about. I just don't subscribe to it. I enjoy the things I enjoy. I ignore the things I don't, and I don't really have much to say about it if I don't. I don't want to get in the way of other people enjoying what it is they're enjoying. So I thought the Post Malone Nirvana thing was cool. I thought most of the stuff we saw this weekend was cool, and Lorne Michaels can do whatever he wants, but if he says he wants to keep going with SNL, as long as you're getting good hosts and good musical acts, I'll be there as often as I'm in front of a TV late on a Saturday night.
Yeah, why did Paul McCartney only perform Abbey Road songs? What was that all about?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't. Is that a thing people are discussing today?
Yeah, what did it? Because he did Carry the Weight. He did The End, and I thought he did another song from Abbey Road. I thought he just did back-to-back Abbey Road songs. I was like, come on, Paul, let's switch it up a little bit. I know it's a classic album.
Yeah, I guess people are wanting Hey Jude, I guess.
Hey Jude would have been sick. Hey
Jude, I mean, that's his big sing-along. If you wanted everybody to be singing along.
Sick. Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed it. Like, as I told Jess this morning, it's 2025. I laid in bed last night and watched a Beatle on live television in 2025 perform. Like, don't take that for granted. We lost John a long time ago. George ain't here no more. There'll be a day where you won't get to see Paul McCartney perform anymore. And I know at 82 he can't sing like he did when he was 32 or 22. Whatever. He can't sing like he could at 72, if you want to know the truth. But, you know, That was a Beatle on television last night. I enjoyed it. Fun night of television, SNL50. If you missed any of it, you can find it streaming on Peacock. Be back in a second.
Thanks for showing up, Memphis. Nothing compares to catching your Grizzlies IRL. And that all starts with buying tickets at Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Memphis Grizzlies and the NBA. Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can catch every highlight. Put that jersey collection to use for the next game and get Grizzlies tickets at Ticketmaster. Whether they're here at FedEx Forum or on the road, Ticketmaster's got your back when it comes to scoring tickets. And there's no better brag than saying you saw it live.
They say main event Jey Uso was going to open the show. So they said they're starting to hear rumbles around the plaza level of Jey Uso. They're getting the crowd together to build up the main event Jey Uso entrance. Hey, 15,000 people together, yeeting in unison, 5-star. They are yeeting together.
Tune in to Grind City Wrestling weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
Where will Aaron Rodgers play?
Gosh.
God, I can't believe we're doing this again.
You know who it's going to be.
Who?
Tennessee Titans. Tighten up.
Oh, no.
You know they're going to do it. You know they're going to do it.
Tune in to the Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt live every weekday at 8 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We got Southern Heritage Classic news. Mike, Tennessee State out. Where do you think the Classic goes from here? Is this a thing that sort of dooms this Classic, Southern Heritage Classic?
I don't ever bet against Fred Jones. I don't count Fred Jones out. You have to have the event. You have to continue to have the weekend, and a football game has to be part of it.
Get all of your HBCU sports and culture news by tuning in to HBCU Huddle with CJ Hurt and Mike Wallace. New episodes drop every Thursday on grindcitymedia.com, YouTube, and Spotify.
Let's face it, there's a lot of trash talk in basketball, but the great teams let their performance do the talking. Like Ford F-150 with Pro Power on board, a class-exclusive industry-first feature that turns your truck into a mobile generator and leaves the competition speechless. Ford F-150, official truck of the Grizzlies. Greatness starts here at your Mid-South Ford dealer. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds, GVWR.
If you go to a hustle game, you're going to see a very fast-paced game. A lot of action, both offensively, defensively.
Nice rejection right there.
In a great environment at the Landers Center. You could bring family there, kids are running around.
Down the lane and one for Zion Poland.
And then you're going to see a lot of talented basketball players competing at a high level.
Kroger shoppers and Grizz fans, one exclusive last-minute discounted ticket deals texted straight to you during the Grizzlies 2024-2025 season. Sign up with the new Kroger Buzzer Beater deal. Fans can sign up by texting Grizz to 636-479 or visit your local Kroger store in the Delta Division and scan the QR code. By signing up, you agree to receive recurring automated promotional and personalized marketing text messages from the Memphis Grizzlies. Consent is not a condition of any purchase. Message frequency varies. Message and data rates may apply.
There's no substitute for experience, the knowledge gained from having been there before, and the passion to share what you know to make everyone around you better. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Shinedown. Dance Kid Dance Tour. Live in Memphis. FedEx Forum Saturday, August 30th. With special guests, Bush and Morgan Wade. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Shinedown, live in concert. For more, visit shinedown.com.
Thanks for showing up, Memphis. Nothing beats catching your Grizzlies IRL, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back with tickets to every upcoming matchup. Whether you're catching the Grizzlies at home or on the road, you'll find tickets at Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Memphis Grizzlies and the NBA. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Grizzlies tickets today. There's no better brag than saying you saw it live. See you courtside again soon, Memphis.
Show presented by Ortho South. I'm in New York City. Bennett Doyle back in Memphis inside the Bill Ford Tough Studio. We're coming off All-Star Weekend. We're still in the middle of the All-Star break. And, you know, if you're an All-Star, you use that time to go to the All-Star Weekend and enjoy that, be celebrated. And if you're not an All-Star, I guess you're supposed to use that time to do any number of things. Rest and relax, go on vacation, spend time with your family. You know what you're not supposed to do on All-Star break, Bennett?
What's that?
Get arrested and charged with assault with a gun. But that's what happened to Mavericks assistant Daryl Armstrong. Oh, they're going through it down in Dallas, aren't they?
Man, yeah, it's been a bad year for the Mavs. It's been a bad start to the year for the Mavs, no question.
They traded Luka Doncic nonsensically, got Anthony Davis. He got hurt immediately, and now you have an assistant coach over the weekend. Ugly details. Innocent till proven guilty. That goes without saying. That goes without saying, Bennett. I'm not trying to put a man in jail.
Still say it.
Innocent until proven guilty. But it don't sound good. Did you hear the details?
No, I didn't.
Daryl Armstrong on Saturday was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon after, according to police, there was a call made at 3:45 a.m. Oh, buddy, that's never a good time.
Should be asleep. You should be asleep. Yep.
Go to sleep. Nobody needs to be talking to their significant other at 3:45. Nope. How many productive conversations have you had with your significant other at 3:45 in the morning?
Well, I mean, never mind.
Okay, Bennett, let's hear it.
I mean, we weren't doing a lot of talking.
Okay, Bennett, 3:45.
I'm just kidding.
3:45, Bennett?
I'm just kidding, bro. I'm just kidding. Please continue.
No, tell me more. No,
continue.
I feel like I should. I'm gonna turn my mic off.
What happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors.
Turn my mic off.
Nah, bro. What did Daryl do? Let me hear about what Daryl did. What did he do at 3:45 in the morning?
What did you do at 3:45 in the morning?
A lot.
Whoa, Bennett! 3:45? Y'all ain't sleepy or nothing?
So those are weirdo hours, bro.
Is it sometimes you just wake up in the middle of the night?
Yeah, those are weirdo hours, bro. Things tend to get weird at that time.
Okay, but help me understand.
Yeah.
3:45. Is this we because we get up at 3:45, or we're still up at 3:45, or we just happen to wake up in the middle of the night and now it's time to?
I think it could be any of those things.
I think it could be any of those things.
I think it could be any of those things. Yeah.
Okay,
what did Daryl do?
Not what you did. Jesus Lord, Bennett. I didn't know you was like that.
What did Daryl do?
Bennett, you're like that. I didn't know you were like that. You really like that.
Sometimes.
Okay. Daryl, he allegedly hit a woman and then threatened to shoot her. Ugh. You don't do that at 3:45 in the morning, do you?
Never.
Same. Never. 3:45, just a strike and then a gun, and then I'm going to shoot you. What do you think has to happen for you to threaten to shoot somebody at 3:45 in the morning on All-Star Weekend?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I need some more details. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
That's tough. The Mavericks have acknowledged that they're aware of an incident, and they have suspended an employee as they further investigate. They didn't name the employee, but it's clearly Daryl Armstrong. Mm-hmm. I don't really know what the point of the story is, other than that franchise is going through it. Their fans are literally booing their owner at the game. You cannot even be the owner of the Mavericks anymore, sit courtside without getting booed. That's where we're at. Nico Harrison,
you can't go to a
manager,
college basketball game without getting booed if you're him, dude. Yeah.
They're booing Nico Harrison everywhere he's at. They need extra security for him. And now you got an assistant coach who had to go to jail this weekend for allegedly doing some pretty horrific stuff. Hey, I know we ain't got the healthiest team all the time in Memphis sometimes, Bennett, but at least we ain't dealing with this nonsense.
Yeah,
you know?
you ain't kidding, man. Yeah.
At least we
count our blessings.
Fingers crossed. Don't let me jinx anything.
Yeah,
all right?
right.
Don't let me jinx anything. Everybody be on their best behavior the rest of this week. All right. Be back.
45-minute video on Tony Allen on YouTube.
I just saw it yesterday.
He managed to dominate the NBA for 14 years, despite missing one of basketball's most important skills. But here's the crazy thing.
Why does that hurt your feelings?
It didn't hurt my feelings.
It's positive.
He at least should have more of my highlights.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We did get a new shoe that dropped today that we should all be able to get if we want it.
Fire.
And it's been one people have been waiting for a long, long time.
Yep.
Asia Wilson. What do you guys think about the shoe?
I love it.
It looks great.
We see people wearing Jaws. We see a lot of people wearing the GT line. But then also we see a lot of NBA players wearing the Sabrinas.
Sabrina, yeah.
I bet you there's going to be a lot of NBA players wearing that.
I agree with you on that.
Oh, yeah.
The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app. What teams do you think, other than Chiefs and Eagles, are going to be teams to reckon with next season?
I think the Ravens, the 49ers, the Bills, the Lions.
I think the Falcons are going to be good next year.
Well, y'all have had like 4 straight losing record seasons. So.
Yeah, the question is, can you just get 2 guys on defense? They scored 38 against the friggin' Panthers and lost the last week of the season. You got to get some stops.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Can't wait. It's time to get it popping.
It's going to be crazy. The fans are going to be loud. We need just energy.
Yes. Back to Jaren for the flush.
We're going to need, the form rocking. We're going to need, everybody in Memphis to be out there to come to support. When the fans are good, we're good. Simple as that.
A Bain 3. Yes, sir. Desmond Bain with ice water in his veins.
We'll ride the energy together.
If you go to a hustle game, you're going to see a very fast-paced game. A lot of action, both offensively, defensively.
Nice rejection right there.
In a great environment at the Landers Center. You could bring family there, kids are running around.
Down the lane and one for Zion Poland.
And then you're going to see a lot of talented basketball players competing at a high level.
At the National Civil Rights Museum, history moves us forward. The question remains, how does history move you?
Keep on talking, marching up to freedom now.
There's no substitute for experience, the knowledge gained from having been there before, and the passion to share what you know to make everyone around you better. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Shinedown. Dance Kid Dance Tour. Live in Memphis. FedEx Forum, Saturday, August 30th. With special guests, Bush and Morgan Wade. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Shinedown, live in concert. For more, visit shinedown.com.
Thanks for showing up, Memphis. Nothing beats catching your Grizzlies IRL, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back with tickets to every upcoming matchup. Whether you're catching the Grizzlies at home or on the road, you'll find tickets at Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Memphis Grizzlies and the NBA. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Grizzlies tickets today. There's no better brag than saying you saw it live. See you courtside again soon, Memphis.
45-minute video on Tony Allen on YouTube.
I just saw it yesterday.
He managed to dominate the NBA for 14 years, despite missing one of basketball's most important skills. But here's the crazy thing.
Why does that hurt your feelings?
It didn't hurt my feelings.
It's positive.
He at least should have more of my highlights.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Welcome back to Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South. Big Bet Bennett, real quick, before we get to GP's carry out, the AP poll should be updating within the next 30 minutes or so. Memphis was 14th in the AP poll last week. I've got them 25th in my top 25 and 1 this morning. Do you think Memphis remains in the AP poll this afternoon?
I think they'll remain in. I think they're probably going to be around like that 24, 25 spot. I'll say that yes, they remain in. Again, I go back to, I know that like clearly on paper it's a bad loss, but like, you see that game, it's at Wichita State, it's overtime loss. The place is packed, it's wild. That's a proud college basketball school. I don't know if that one's going to get them knocked out completely of it. And again, also that we didn't really mention when we talked about that, the hope is now that Wichita State's won 4 in a row that becomes a quad 2 loss within the next, week or two. That's my hope, at least.
Well, okay, so Wichita State's 138 in the net right now. So for that to be a quad 2, they would have to get to 135. So it's within range, but as of this moment, it is still a quad 3 loss. And I'll just put it this way. If Memphis is in the AP poll today, the Tigers will be the only team in the AP poll with 3 quadrant 3 losses. Nobody else even close to that. As I told you, 0 teams in the top 25 of the net even have 1 quadrant 3 loss. Memphis right now has 3. I think you're right. Memphis will remain in. It'll be somewhere in the 20s, and it'll largely be a byproduct of the idea that AP voters just really struggle with dropping you 10 spots, 12 spots, 15 spots because of 1 loss. But the computer numbers are becoming problematic. I'll just run you through a few of them. In the net right now, Memphis is 49th. At KenPom right now, Memphis is 47. BPI, 41. Bart Torvik, 53. Those are mostly predictive metrics. Memphis is not good in them because they've lost bad games and won too many games against bad teams by small margins. That's how you get bad predictive metric numbers. The good stuff for Memphis is a strength of record of 22. Wins above bubble is 2.62, which ranks 26th nationally. So if you're trying to focus on the stuff that is good for Memphis, is 5 quadrant 1 wins. It's a 10-2 record in the first 2 quadrants. It's a strength of record that ranks 22nd nationally. That'll probably be enough, combined with the fact that they were 14th last week and it's a long drop all the way out. That'll probably be enough to keep Memphis in the top 25 and 1. Top 25. But they're probably going to be in the 20s. And then the next loss will drop them out. They will not be allowed to lose again. Because it's not like you're playing in the SEC and the Big Ten and you can go win 2 big games and then lose again. All you can do moving forward is win bad games or games that don't really matter or lose them. That's it. So unless Memphis has 0 additional losses between now and Selection Sunday, Memphis is going to fall out of the AP poll at some point. They could maybe survive this loss at Wichita State, but they will not be able to survive another league loss and remain in the top 25 of the AP poll. We'll get it updated here in just a bit. Be back with GP's Carryout.
We did get a new shoe that dropped today that we should all be able to get if we want it.
Fire.
And it's been one people have been waiting for a long, long time.
Yep.
Asia Wilson. What do you guys think about the shoe?
I love it.
It looks great. We see people wearing Jaws. We see a lot of people wearing the GT line, but then also we see a lot of NBA players wearing the Sabrinas.
Sabrina, yeah.
I bet you there's gonna be a lot of NBA players wearing that.
I agree with you on that.
Oh, yeah.
The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app. What teams do you think, other than Chiefs and Eagles, are going to be teams to reckon with next season?
I think the Ravens, the 49ers, the Bills, the Lions.
I think the
should have
Falcons are
talent.
going to be good next year.
Well, y'all had like 4 straight losing record seasons. So.
Yeah, the question is, like, can you just get like 2 guys on defense? Like they scored 38 against the friggin' Panthers and lost the last week of the season. Like, you got to get some stops.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Can't wait. It's time to get it popping.
It's going to be crazy. The fans are going to be loud. We need just energy.
Back to Jaren for the flush.
We're going to need, the form rocking. We're going to need, everybody in Memphis to be out there to come to support. When the fans are good, we're good. Simple as that.
A Bain 3, yes sir! Desmond Bain with ice water in his veins.
We'll ride the energy together.
If you go to a hustle game, you're going to see a very fast-paced game. A lot of action, both offensively, defensively.
Nice rejection right there.
In a great environment at the Lander Center. You could bring family there, kids are running around.
Down the lane and one for Zion Poland.
And then you're going to see a lot of talented basketball players competing at a high level.
At the National Civil Rights Museum, history moves us forward. The question remains, how does history move you?
Keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
A night of comedy with Sebastian Maniscalco and Jim Gaffigan.
Now, is this a family? Is this your mother? Where is she? Is she in the crowd? You don't know where your mom is. The mom's up there. What kind of family is this? I'm sorry.
Sebastian Maniscalco and Jim Gaffigan.
I went ziplining for the last time. What is wrong with us? Would you pay $200 to feel like you're about to die 6 times?
Live in Memphis, FedEx Forum, Friday, February 21st. Get tickets now at livenation.com.
Sonic Radio. Welcome back to Sonic RNDIO. That spells radio with me, the CIO. This just in, the new Sonic $1.99 menu lets you build a crave-worthy meal for just $1.99 an item, whether that's a creamy shake, crispy tots, or a quarter-pound double cheeseburger. This just out. Ostriches. They're mean, not very cute, and in my opinion, way too big for a bird. Don't miss the Sonic Fun 99 menu. 5 items, always $1.99. Live free, eat Sonic.
Tax not included. See menu for details.
Grizzlies fans, dunks, dimes, and no looks are great on TV, but nothing compares to catching them IRL. And that starts with buying tickets at Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Memphis Grizzlies and the NBA. Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can catch every highlight in person. From seeing your favorite Grizzly stars up close to hearing the squeak of the sneakers on the hardwood. Put that jersey collection to use and get tickets at Ticketmaster. There's no better brag than saying you saw it live. See you courtside, Memphis.
45-minute video on Tony Allen on YouTube.
I just saw it yesterday.
He managed to dominate the NBA for 14 years, despite missing one of basketball's most important skills. But here's the crazy thing.
Why does that hurt your feelings?
It didn't hurt my feelings.
It's
no.
positive.
He at least should have more of my highlights.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We did get a new shoe that dropped today that we should all be able to get if we want it.
Fire.
And it's been one people have been waiting for a long, long time.
Yep.
Asia Wilson. What do you guys think about the shoe?
I love it.
It looks great. We see people wearing Jaws. We see a lot of people wearing the GT line, but then also we see a lot of NBA players wearing the Sabrinas.
Sabrina, yeah.
I bet you there's gonna be a lot of NBA players wearing that.
I agree with you on that.
Oh yeah.
The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
Welcome back, Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South. We're running out of time, so let's wrap this up with GP's Carryout.
It's time for GP's Carryout. One final segment filled with stuff to take with you. It's not everything you need to know, but it's most of it. What did we learn today?
I mean, a whole bunch of stuff, but I think the best thing is Bennett is a 345er. Woo! 345. Are you the type that's going to wake a sleeping person? Are you the type that's going to wake a sleeping companion up at 345 just to see what the score is? Or do you let a tired woman sleep, Bennett? Explain yourself.
I mean, I can't say it hadn't happened before.
Man, it just happens sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
You ain't lived right if you ain't ever tried to wake somebody up at 3:45 in the morning, if you're being honest. You know?
Yep. Having trouble sleeping, you know.
Bennett's wild, man. I didn't expect you to be wild today, but I learned that you are. Okay, Bennett. I'm proud of you, man. I'm going to start looking at you a little differently.
Thank you.
You're
What's
welcome.
today's biggest game?
Let's do college basketball. Arizona at Baylor, 9 o'clock Central on ESPN. It's the second half of the doubleheader on Big Monday. Foster Pavilion, Arizona, 1.5-point underdog on the road. Baylor minus 1.5 inside Foster Pavilion. Total's 152.5. How you going to act?
Give me a bounce back opportunity for the Wildcats. How about that? God, they lost 2 in a row. They're desperate, man. You got to go get a win.
Desperate. Bennett says the Wildcats are desperate on the road. He's got Arizona winning at Baylor tonight. Take Arizona plus the 1.5.
What are we watching on TV?
Raw returns to Netflix tonight. We're going to get Finn Balor against Seth Rollins. That's the biggest match that's already being advertised. 7 o'clock Central. Stream it on Netflix.com.
What's the best thing we've read?
DeMichael Cole was at All-Star Weekend. If you haven't read his stuff yet, you can find it commercialappeal.com.
What's on tap for tomorrow?
Just trying to make sure we get out of here on time, Bennett. Tomorrow's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's
I think
Tuesday.
You're good.
Well, you're screwing it up. You're going to mess it up.
I don't think so.
Tuesday, so we'll do whatever we're going to be on Tuesday. Meet you back here at 10. Till then, be careful, be kind, be good. I'm going to hit it, Bennett. Watch this. Rep your hood. Bye-bye.